So today I want to talk about 5 reasons why you should not join the World Mission Society Church of God. I think many of you are encountering these people. They're very focused on proselytizing and evangelizing out in the public. And so I know many of you who have commented or reached out to me are kind of in these beginning stages of having just met with these people, and they're trying to get you to come to a Bible study. And so what I want to do is this video is in large part for you. And basically I'm going to explain, there's a lot more reasons than 5 that you should not join this group, but I'm just for the sake of time, I'm going to give you 5 quick reasons why I think for you to join the WMSCOG, for you to even go and try out their Bible studies is not a good idea. Before I do that, I want to say if you're new to this channel, if this is the first video you've maybe watched on this channel, one thing that I'm really focused on doing through Great Light Studios, which is the name of this channel, is to make videos that teach about this specific group, which I believe is a cult group, the World Mission Society Church of God. I do interviews with former members of this group. We do teachings where we basically walk through their arguments, the verses they use to support their doctrines, and we respond to those and refute them. And so we have over 100 videos specifically about the World Mission Society Church of God on our channel. I'll put a link to our playlist in the description below. So yeah, I welcome you to this channel. I hope you find the content here helpful and useful. I do want to say I kind of have a goal to reach 4,000 subscribers by the end of this year. I'm hoping we can do that. And so would you consider liking this video, subscribing, commenting? All those things really help the algorithm. It helps get this content out to more people. And it helps me personally. As the channel grows, it helps me to be able financially to continue to do this, and not only to continue doing it, but to do more of it. So with that said, I want to jump into this, and basically I'm going to just do a quick bullet point list again of the 5 reasons why I think you should not join this group. So number 1, and this is a big one, loss of family and friends and the most important relationships in your life. So this is a very common thing that I hear from members who have been a part of this group. I hear this over and over again, that their closest relationships in their life took a big hit when they joined this group. I know of stories where sons are completely separated from their parents, or husbands and wives are getting divorced, and mothers are losing their children, brothers are losing their siblings. This group, what they will do, and this is a very common practice for a lot of high demand, high control cult groups, is they try to seclude you. They try to get you more isolated from the outside world so that they can have basically full control of your thinking and what you believe, because that, I think, in my opinion, for this group, what that allows them to do is to have more control over how you spend your time, how you spend your money. All those things kind of they have more control over it if they can get you to separate from your family and friends who are kind of in the outside world. And so there's some cases where if your family or friends aren't necessarily pushing back against this group very much, they might be a little bit more lenient, I guess, as far as not trying to get you separated fully from your family. But if you have family or friends who are in any way anti you being a part of this group, the WMSCOG will push you to separate from them. And they will use, teachings and Bible verses to try to basically cause you to diminish and remove your sense of importance in these relationships. They'll teach you to basically devalue anything that is not connected to this church. And that part of that, a big part of that is your relationships. And so that's one big concern and thing I would encourage you to think about if you're considering joining this group, is that there is a very real, very good possibility that your closest relationships will suffer from you being a part of this group. Number 2 would be a loss of your self-identity, your likes, your dislikes, your passions, your hobbies, life goals, career goals, etc. So I know of members, I've interviewed, Jeremy Burgos is a good example of this, who had a great football career in front of him. And because of him joining this church, basically all that he threw away. And this is a common thing with people, that they basically, another characteristic of cults is that it's part of that isolating aspect where they want your focus, your attention, your commitment to be on them, on their group, on their doctrines, on spending your time, your energy, your money on doing their things, what they want you to do. And so this is another area where they're going to teach you to devalue, I think, not only your own like personal hobbies and your interests and your whatever ideas you had for what you want your future to look like. They're going to use their doctrines, their fear-mongering, end-of-the-world sort of idea that the world's going to end anytime and nothing in this world really matters. The physical things are unimportant and you just need to focus on the spiritual. There's all these ideas that they're going to push upon you that maybe on the surface they sound good. Maybe on the surface it sounds, pious and like wisdom. But at the end of the day, what it causes you to lose your own autonomy, your own self-identity, who you are, what makes you you. And there's this aspect of where members basically conform to this basic pattern. There's this basic pattern of what a World Mission Society Church of God member is like, even down to, I've heard member after member talk about, even down to the way members talk. A lot of members develop this certain, almost like an accent. And it's just sort of part of that robotic sort of nature of being brainwashed, I think, is maybe a harsh sounding word, but I think it's a true word. This cult will basically make you fit into this certain mold of what WMSCOG members should focus on. And it's going to cause you to lose basically what makes you you, what makes you unique and special in terms of your own personal interests and desires, even things like movies and music you like, you're going to be, basically those sort of things are going to be somewhat demonized and talked down upon as if those are unspiritual and sinful, and you're just wasting your time to focus on anything like that. You just need to focus all your time and attention and money on the church. And so not only will you lose family, very likely, you will very likely in some sense lose yourself. Number 3 is going to be something I've been touching on already, but a loss of money. This group, basically under threat of a loss of salvation, requires tithes, many tithes. Just not just like a one-time tithe, but there's multiple different times when you're supposed to tithe. It's expected. And if you do not tithe, I think in many cases you're not necessarily going to be like blatantly told like you're not going to go to heaven. I think in some cases maybe you will be told that just very plainly and clearly, but whether implicitly or explicitly is going to be communicated to you that by you not tithing, and they're going to have all these misconstrued and misinterpreted verses to back it up. But if you don't tithe, basically, God is not going to save you. You're not going to be saved unless you're tithing your money. And so members spend, those especially who have been in this group for years, they spend thousands and thousands and thousands of their dollars, of their income, giving it to this group. Who knows where it's going? I don't know where the money goes. But I think that's just another thing that you really need to consider if you're thinking about joining this group, is that your financial situation is going to take a big hit. And this is most unfortunate for those who are already maybe in a lower income situation. I know many members have to shut off even like their electricity. They have times where they have to shut off their electricity or not provide for their own basic needs because the church is requiring and pretty much laying these guilt trips on the members that they need to be tithing. And so members end up in these like very bad situations where they can't even financially provide for their needs. And the church, in many cases, seems to just be somewhat heartless and unsympathetic toward those situations. And they'll just continue to push that these members continue to tithe and that that's somehow, honoring God and the right thing to do and all that baloney. Number 4, in the WMSCOG, you will be living under a system that promotes guilt, shame, and condemnation. It's founded upon an idea that you are a terrible, worthless sinner who committed some grave sin in heaven. So number 4, this comes down to basically, like, I think the mental and emotional and spiritual state of mind that you're going to be in and subjected to if you join this group. The doctrines and teachings of this group promote this burdensome, I would say, obligatory system where there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of regulations, there's a lot of, you have to keep the Sabbath every Saturday and stay in the building all day. And their doctrines promote this idea that you're just this worthless, horrible person who committed these horrible sins in heaven against God. And they kind of start out this, your journey in the WMSCOG kind of like tearing you down in a sense of making you feel so guilty, so terrible for the supposed sin that you committed against Mother and Father in heaven. Basically what that does is that puts you in this kind of mental and emotional state of wanting to kind of like give back and make up for that terrible thing that you supposedly did that obviously none of us have any awareness of. What was that sin that we committed in heaven that was so terrible? But this WMSCOG doctrine and system is going to make you feel guilty, and whether you admit it or not, there's some people that would, I think, argue and say no, they feel great in the Church of God, and it's giving them a lot of peace and joy and whatnot. I think if you're honest with yourself, I don't think that's the case. I think if you're really committed to these doctrines and you're really taking them to heart, it's going to cause you to feel like this dirty, nasty, ugly sinner who's just kind of worthless and terrible. And thank Father and Mother that they're just so merciful and they're forgiving us of our sins that we committed in heaven. But, in order to have that forgiveness, you have to basically work your butt off. You have to keep your Sabbaths. You have to keep your tithes. You have to be preaching and bringing other people into the church and doing all these things to basically earn your place in heaven. And if you can't keep up with it, well, too bad. You're going to go to hell. And their description of hell, their thoughts about what hell is horrible, terrible, terrifying. If you actually believe that's true, which it's not true. But all that teaching, all that doctrine, to those who really internalize it and take it seriously, you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel heavy. You're going to feel, I think, drained emotionally, mentally, physically, as you're committing all this time to this church, feeling like you have to somehow appease this God who's just so disappointed and so upset about how terrible of a sinner you are. I think, it's not going to make you a truly at peace and content and happy person. So number 5, this last one, and these aren't specifically in any order of importance, but number 5 would be the WMSCOG is not biblical. So as much as it may seem that the Church of God is biblically solid and has like these great profound teachings and understanding of the Bible, with a little digging into it, with a little research, with a little just listening to other outside voices who like myself and others who would take what they're teaching you and comment on it and critique it, I think you're going to find that their doctrines are not as solid, they're not as compelling as you might think, as they might tell you. The supposed prophecies that teach about Ahnsahnghong's, fulfillment of all these Bible prophecies, a little digging into these things, and you see that the World Mission Society Church of God is not biblical. It doesn't stand up to any sort of scrutiny from other people who aren't already coming into the Bible assuming WMSCOG doctrine. If you come into the Bible, if you open it up already assuming, okay, there is a mother God, Ahnsahnghong is second coming Christ, Passover is the core of the gospel and whatnot, well, you're going to be able to find verses to back that up. You're going to be able to, if you're assuming that's true already, you can, if you're assuming something already when you go into the Bible, you're going to be able to find verses to back up and prove any belief, any doctrine. But that's an example of how the WMSCOG doesn't draw their beliefs and their doctrines from the Bible. Rather, they come into the Bible with their preconceived doctrines, their assumptions about what the Bible says, and then they grab verses here and there out of context that they twist and distort and contort to make supposedly support their doctrines. But at the end of the day, this group is not biblical. So, as a quick recap, one, don't join this group because, number one, there's a good chance you're going to lose those closest relationships in your life, the things that really matter, the people that really matter, the people who really love you and care about you. Those relationships are going to be affected negatively, I would say. Number two, your loss of your self-identity, your sense of self, who you are, your own, what makes you, what makes you unique, what you want to be in life, what you want to accomplish. Those sort of things are basically, because of the doctrine of this church, are going to be flushed down the toilet. And you're going to have to conform to this robotic sort of pattern of a WMSCOG member. Number three, loss of money. Your finances will very likely take a big hit. If you follow along with what the WMSCOG promotes in what they teach that you should be doing with your finances in the way of tithing, your financial situation is going to take a hit. Number four, again, this system, the doctrines are going to cause you to be a guilt-ridden, heavy-laden person. This church puts doctrines on your back that's like a heavy burden. While Jesus says he wants to remove the heavy burdens, this church comes and puts heavy burdens on your back. And lastly, again, number five is that it's not biblical. This group makes great boasts and claims to be the only church that has the truth of God, which is, ironically, the same exact pattern that every cult group, whether it's Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, and just wacky, even Christian denominations, that's a key distinctive that makes cults, as far as religious, like Christian-based cults, is this assumption that they had this secret knowledge, this secret understanding of the Bible, and only they can give you the truth of the Bible. Guys, when you hear somebody or some group saying that, that's what cults say. So it's not biblical. So these are just a few reasons, 5 reasons out of many, many more that we could talk about for why you should not join the church. So if you have recently encountered this group, if for some reason you are kind of on the fence, thinking about going to Bible studies, thinking about being baptized, please listen and think about the things I've just said and ask yourself, is this really a group I want to commit my life to? Is this really the direction I want to go? And I think if you really think about those things that I just talked about, you're going to see that this is not a group that you want to join.